David, if we could talk a little bit about a good topic, which is with all of the technology and change, there's only always one thing that's constant, and that's change. Change management in an organization that has a lot of legacy systems, a lot of legacy thinking, even perhaps a lot of regulatory oversight. These can create hurdles that you have to overcome. Someone skilled and experienced at that can help guide the way through that and certainly can narrate and tell the stories that are necessary, right? That bring people along. But I'm speaking about most recently, you were able to implement or be part of the team that implemented the True Stage rebrand and the modernization efforts. And those are underway. And so I was hoping you could talk to us a little bit how you think about managing change in large established organizations.
Sure, sure. So the True Stage single brand transformation that actually was kicked off before I got there. So we can, I would
Good credit
say,
there, yes, for that.
yeah, but we could start there. Just the organization going from, you know, having I would call it multiple companies that they had acquired over the years for different types of products as their relationship with the credit unions grew and the credit unions themselves were growing. Um, we find, hey, there's different needs. Hey, we're going to start selling annuities and retirement plans and exec benefits to the credit union community. We're going to start selling lending insurance, um, business protection insurance, things like that. So these were not things necessarily that they would grow homegrown. They'd buy a company to do it. Another example, pre-need business, right? The free burial policies for funerals. They had
Mm-hmm.
a big partnership with they call them independent marketing organizations that are basically tied in funeral homes. So you had this siloed approach with many different organizations, often with their own little marketing departments or little IT departments or little, uh, you know, legal departments, things like that. And so, really leaning into one name, I don't feel really happened until starting just around the time I started. We had changed the name to True Stage from CUNA Mutual, but
Mm-hmm.
now it's really a great example is the marketing organization becoming a shared service. Historically there were pieces of it devoted to different lines of business, and now as a shared service, you really need to look holistically across the enterprise and say, what are the things that are most important from a priority perspective for the enterprise? How do we allocate our resources? How much of our resource do we allocate to a given campaign or given initiative? And how do we measure success? And so there's a lot of change happening at TrueStage, not just in the marketing department, but also across the organization as we're really leaning into that one TrueStage ethos, so to speak. So good communication is sort of at the hallmark of it, right? You have to pretty be very clear on what the vision is and why, where we're going. I think Terrence has done a really nice job at that. Um, Prioritization is a big part of this too. You have to be very intentional about what the organization focuses on versus living into a new model and the challenges that come with resource constraints around that. So prioritization is big. Alignment to enterprise goals that ladder down to business segment goals. In our business, we've got numerous lines of business that the team supports, and then how those ladder into marketing OKRs and marketing goals. So um, it's all got to tie together. If you've asked me like, what is my job? What do I do? I make sure that our marketing strategy supports the business strategy. It never lives on its own, right? It's got to be intrinsically tied to that. So, um, it's there's I know there's a lot of different schools of thought over change management, different models. I've seen the McKinsey model. I've seen some of these other models. I think it's right now we're trying to live into the new model, right? And it will take some time for this company to be at a place of comfort, I guess, right? Change is a good thing. This company's been around for 90 years. The ambition is to be around another 90 years.
Mm-hmm.
And there's it's it takes it takes everyone being on the same page as much as possible to do that. So being being calm in the middle of things that aren't always feeling very smooth, right? That's a big piece of it. Uh, Providing clarity, providing guidance and leadership, and being aligned with other leaders. I think that's the biggest piece. I would say is how we're managing through that single brand transformation and moving into a new era with TrueStage.
Yeah, that's an interesting process to take to come in and take these disparate parts and pieces. You mentioned communication being so important, and then the calm, right? The sense of this will take time, laying out expectations. And often, um, short-term and long-term goals can be really hard to resolve. Is there a
For sure.
tension there that you have any suggestions? So in the short term, you can't abandon everything, right, to focus on where
Yeah.
we'll be in 18 months. And there still have to be a sense of progress in the short run. How have you found that effective? Is that something you can effectively communicate, or do you have to show results in the short term? How do you tend to
Yeah.
manage for that?
You have to do both. I think sometimes you have to have some difficult conversations. Like it can't all be at the expense of the future, right? There's obviously financial metrics every company's trying to meet. And so there's in-year things that we can do and in-year things we're going to focus on, but building for the future is really important too. So it can't be one or the other. It's got to be both. It's got to be a blend. Um, the long-term ambitions of the company require long-term thinking and long-term investment. So it's by that very definition alone, right? You have to therefore invest in things like the right data structure so we can really be effective at lifecycle marketing and cross-sell and next best action. You have to have um, the right infrastructure in place from an IT perspective, right? From a data perspective, from a claims perspective, right? All these things require longer term, big picture thinking and longer term investment. And then, it doesn't mean that, and therefore we're not on the spot for hitting production targets for 2025 either. So
Yeah.
it's a balancing act. I'm not going to say there's any perfect way to do it, but you if you're in a strategic role like I am and like most leaders are at TrueStage, you have to have both views. It can't be one or the other.
Yeah. I think marketing is particularly an interesting space. I got my start in insurance when I came from outside of insurance and took on a marketing role. And we created a carrier called Elephant Insurance, and
Yeah,
I kind of got it in market. And I remember thinking, this is a job where everyone has a really strong opinion,
sure.
but it takes time to build the foundations and to be able to then, on top of those foundations, have your marketing engine, working,
Hmm.
and then to create the iterations that you need over time. So you need
Yeah,
strong leaders. Absolutely. You need strong visionaries who can communicate that vision and bring people along with you. And then celebrating little wins along the way
for
goes a
sure.
long way. Yeah.
For sure, right? Those are they're free of charge, right?
Yeah. But it's putting
Saying
in
a
the
good
work,
job.
the hard work that actually matters, right? Everyone can give lip service to those types of things, but I do appreciate, if you, as you're in the trenches doing that now, it's such an authentic way to describe what you're doing, because you have to look
Yeah,
forward and you have to look at the now and balance those two.